Friends, if you want to watch the super hit movie A Working Man, 2025, in English, then make sure to like this video. And if you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe for more amazing updates like this. Friends, in today's video, we are going to talk about an exciting and emotional film, A Working Man, 2025. We'll discuss what this movie is about, where you can watch it, and share all the interesting facts related to it. In this video, I'll tell you everything. On which OTT platform or satellite TV channel you can watch this movie. We'll also dive into details about the technical department, music department, pre-production, filming, post-production, and the budget of the movie. Not only that, we'll also look at its box office collection so far. We'll talk about the storyline, and I'll share a short review of the plot as well. We'll discuss the star cast, the actors' performances, and who played which character in the movie. So friends, make sure you watch this video till the end to get all the exciting details about A Working Man, 2025. Let's begin the video. Let me know if you'd like it in Urdu, or with English word-for-word Urdu translation like before. Sure. Here's a detailed analysis of the plot and narrative structure of A Working Man, 2025, written in the third-person perspective, covering the story arc, key turning points, conflicts, themes, and emotional impact. A Working Man, 2025, Plot and Narrative Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is a deeply moving and socially resonant drama that explores the struggles, identity, and quiet resilience of a blue-collar worker in a rapidly modernizing urban landscape. The story is linear for the most part, yet it subtly plays with perspective shifts and symbolic narrative devices to deepen the emotional experience. Opening sequence, the routine life. The film opens with Ravi, a middle-aged construction worker in a bustling metropolis. He lives in a cramped one-room apartment, waking up every day before dawn to catch a crowded bus and work on the high-rise buildings that define the city's skyline. The narrative quickly establishes his routine, repetitive, physically draining, and devoid of recognition. Through this, the film paints a larger picture of urban labor, setting the tone of quiet dignity amidst invisibility. Ravi is portrayed as a man of few words, yet deeply observant. The film often lingers on his facial expressions, emphasizing his emotional solitude and sense of entrapment in the daily grind. First turning point, the layoff. The first major turning point comes when Ravi and several other workers are suddenly laid off from the construction site due to a halted project. There's no severance, no explanation, just a dismissal masked in cold bureaucracy. This incident jolts Ravi's otherwise stable world. The camera lingers on his reaction, not anger, but a stunned silence, a slow unraveling of his routine. Here, the film shifts slightly in tone, using flashbacks to hint at Ravi's past life in a rural village, where he was once a skilled artisan before being forced to migrate to the city. This non-linear insertion adds depth to his character, revealing a history of displacement and lost identity. Conflict, identity versus survival. With no job and mounting pressure, Ravi is forced to take on a series of odd jobs, from working as a delivery man to helping at a mechanic's garage. These sequences highlight the precarity of informal labor and the fragility of identity when one's work is stripped away. The internal conflict becomes clear. Ravi is not just fighting poverty, but the loss of purpose. He questions his worth in a society that measures value in economic output alone. This is reinforced by his interaction with his teenage daughter, who feels embarrassed by his dirty job and aspires for a better life. Second turning point, the protest. A turning point arises when Ravi stumbles upon a growing union of displaced workers demanding legal rights and fair wages. Initially reluctant, Ravi slowly becomes involved. His quiet strength and ability to articulate the pain of his fellow workers make him a natural spokesperson. The narrative here shifts again, this time from individual suffering to collective resistance. The film avoids melodrama, instead grounding this movement in realism. Long takes, natural lighting, and overlapping dialogues create a documentary-style feel during the protest scenes. Climax, the betrayal and choice. The climax is emotionally intense. Just as the union gains media attention, Ravi is offered a new construction job by a powerful contractor, on the condition that he quits the protest and publicly discredits the union. Now, Ravi is torn. Choosing the job means financial stability and dignity in his daughter's eyes. But staying with the union means risking everything for a larger cause. This moral dilemma forms the emotional core of the story. Resolution, quiet defiance. In a subdued yet powerful ending, Ravi refuses the contractor's offer. He doesn't give a grand speech. Instead, he walks away, choosing solidarity over personal gain. The final scene shows him teaching his daughter how to carve wood, a callback to his forgotten identity as a craftsman. It's a quiet victory, signaling reclamation of self-worth and hope for the next generation. The film ends not with triumph, but with quiet resistance, an open-ended note that reflects the ongoing struggle of the working class. Narrative structure and techniques. Linear with reflective non-linearity. While the main story unfolds chronologically, occasional flashbacks provide emotional depth. Perspective. Though told in the third person, the narrative remains deeply subjective, aligning viewers emotionally with Ravi's perspective. Symbolism. Repeated imagery of hands, tools, and broken objects highlight themes of creation, labor, and erosion of dignity. Tone. Meditative, restrained, and humanistic. There is no overt melodrama, only realism infused with compassion. Themes and emotional impact. Dignity of labor. Urban alienation. Moral integrity versus survival. Invisible backbone of the economy. Intergenerational disconnect and hope. The emotional impact of A Working Man, 2025, is profound. It doesn't seek pity for its protagonist, it offers empathy. By the end, the viewer carries a quiet respect for Ravi, not because he wins, but because he never gives up being human in a world that treats him like a machine. Let me know if you want a translated version in Urdu, or a summary version of this analysis for video scripting purposes. Certainly. Here's a detailed character development analysis of A Working Man, 2025, written in the third-person perspective, exploring the depth, transformation, relationships, motivations, and arcs of the central characters. A Working Man, 2025, Character Development Analysis. Overview. A Working Man, 2025, is a character-driven film that unfolds through the lens of everyday lives, focusing particularly on the working class. At the center of the story is Ravi, a construction worker whose personal journey forms the emotional and thematic backbone of the film. Around him are secondary characters, his daughter, co-workers, and the community, that help to mirror, challenge, and ultimately shape his internal transformation. The film is praised for its authentic character portrayals, where growth is subtle, organic, and emotionally resonant. 1. Ravi, the protagonist. Initial state, the invisible everyman. At the beginning of the film, Ravi is a reserved, middle-aged man defined by routine and silence. He has worked in construction for years, becoming part of the invisible workforce that builds cities yet remains unseen by society. He is dependable but emotionally numb, focused solely on providing for his daughter. His identity is fused with his role as a laborer. He has no voice, no recognition, and has long buried his personal dreams. He lives a life of compromise, shaped by migration, poverty, and social class. His motivations are simple but heavy: survival, stability, and his daughter's future. Catalyst for change. Ravi's transformation begins when he is laid off without warning. This event shakes the foundation of his world. No longer anchored by the predictability of work, Ravi is forced to face existential questions. Who is he without his job? What is his worth in a society that treats labor as disposable? This moment becomes a gateway into deeper introspection and social awareness. Gradual transformation. The film charts Ravi's transformation not through grand gestures, but through small, powerful moments. A confrontation with his daughter over his shameful job. A silent meal alone, with flashbacks to his childhood. Listening quietly as other workers voice frustrations he never dared express. He slowly evolves from a passive figure to an emotionally aware, morally conscious individual. The shift is internal. He doesn't change who he is, but he reclaims who he was always meant to be, a man of skill, value, and dignity. Climax and final growth. Ravi's character reaches a pivotal moment when he is offered a job that comes with a cost: betray the very cause he now believes in. His refusal marks the culmination of his arc, from silent worker to someone who finally says no, not just for himself but for others like him. In the end, Ravi isn't redeemed in the traditional sense. He is still poor, still struggling. But he has grown in spirit. He regains agency, pride, and connection to his lost self, seen in the final scene where he teaches his daughter wood carving, a symbolic act of passing down culture, dignity, and hope. 2. Kavya, the daughter. Initial state. Kavya is a teenager caught between two worlds: the harsh reality of her father's life and the aspirational, image-driven culture around her. She is academically bright, socially aware, but ashamed of her father's status and low-income job. She represents a younger generation pulled by ambition, often disconnected from the sacrifices behind their opportunities. Arc and growth. Kavya's arc is subtle but important. Through her father's choices, especially his refusal to sell out the union, she begins to see him in a new light, not as a failed provider, but as a principled man. Her emotional shift is seen not in long speeches, but in her quiet presence in the final scene. Her acceptance of her roots and her father is a bridge between generations, suggesting healing and continuity. 3. Salim, the co-worker and friend. Salim provides emotional grounding and contrast to Ravi. He is more outspoken, humorous, and openly critical of the system. Salim encourages Ravi to join the protest movement and acts as both a mirror and motivator. Though not deeply explored, Salim represents the voice of collective struggle, and his camaraderie with Ravi shows the importance of solidarity in the working class. His character doesn't undergo drastic transformation, but serves as a catalyst for Ravi's change. 4. The contractor, antagonistic force. While not a villain in the traditional sense, the contractor symbolizes the cold, transactional nature of capitalism. He is polite, calculating, and distant from the human consequences of his decisions. He doesn't need to be evil. His indifference is the true threat. His role is crucial in showing what Ravi is up against, a system that sees workers as numbers, not people. 5. The union leader, the spark. The union leader is a secondary character who awakens Ravi's dormant sense of justice. He speaks with passion, but also realism. He doesn't promise a utopia, he simply demands dignity. His character is less about personal development and more about thematic function, a trigger for Ravi's awakening. Character relationships and impact. Ravi and Kavya, a strained yet tender relationship that evolves into mutual respect. Ravi and Salim, reflects the importance of friendship and emotional support in hardship. Ravi versus the contractor, a moral battlefield, integrity versus self-preservation. Ravi and self, the most important relationship, his journey to reclaim self-worth. Conclusion. The characters in A Working Man, 2025, are richly layered, with subtle but meaningful growth. Their arcs are emotionally grounded, shaped by environment, conflict, and moral choices. The film doesn't rely on dramatic transformations, but instead honors quiet evolution, the kind seen in real life. Through them, the film asks powerful questions about identity, labor, class, and dignity, making A Working Man, 2025, not just a story of one man, but a portrait of millions whose lives are rarely shown with such truth and respect. Let me know if you'd like this converted into script narration style, or if you'd like a shorter summary for use in a video voiceover. Absolutely. Here is a detailed analysis of the performances in A Working Man, 2025, written from a third-person perspective, covering how the lead and supporting cast brought the characters to life, enhanced emotional depth, and contributed to the film's authenticity and impact. A Working Man, 2025, Performances Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is a film defined not just by its grounded script or realistic direction, but by the raw, honest, and deeply human performances of its cast. The characters feel lived in, their emotions unforced, and their silences as expressive as their dialogue. The success of the film lies in how the actors inhabit their roles, not as performers, but as real people shaped by economic pressure, silent suffering, and personal resilience. 1. The lead actor, Ravi, played by Rajkumar Rao. Note, if a different actor plays Ravi, substitute accordingly. Rajkumar Rao delivers a career-defining performance as Ravi, the titular working man. Known for his mastery of nuanced roles, Rao here does something even more difficult. He disappears completely into the character. Subtlety as power. What makes Rao's performance extraordinary is its restraint. He doesn't rely on dramatic outbursts or theatrical expressions. Instead, he channels Ravi's world-weariness through body language, micro-expressions, and quiet presence. The way he walks, lowers his gaze when humiliated, or holds back tears in moments of crisis. Every gesture feels deeply authentic. Key performance highlights. Layoff scene. Ravi's stunned silence speaks louder than words. His expression captures betrayal, fear, and quiet endurance without a single dramatic line. Father-daughter confrontation. Rao's controlled tone, moist eyes, and trembling hands show a father trying to maintain dignity even when breaking inside. Final protest decision. His refusal to betray the union is conveyed not with speeches, but a look of firm, silent resolve. It is powerful precisely because it's so understated. Rao's performance doesn't demand sympathy, it commands respect. He elevates the entire film with his ability to embody the invisible strength of the working class. 2. The daughter, Kovya, played by Tripti Dimri. Tripti Dimri, as Kovya, delivers a performance that adds emotional contrast and generational conflict to the narrative. Playing a teenager caught between ambition and shame, she brings a sense of realism and vulnerability to the role. Layers of emotion. Kovya is not an antagonist, but a conflicted soul. Dimri captures this perfectly, especially in scenes where she avoids Ravi out of embarrassment or argues with him about their financial struggles. Her acting remains restrained, never veering into melodrama, and this naturalism enhances her believability. Standout moments. The argument scene, where she breaks down, not because she hates her father, but because she hates their situation. Her silent expression of realization during the protest scene, when she sees her father in a new light. The final scene, sitting with her father as he carves wood. Her expression of quiet pride marks her emotional evolution. Dimri's performance adds a youthful emotional arc that grounds the father's struggle in a deeper, more relatable context. 3. Salim, the friend and co-worker, played by Jaideep Ahlawat. Jaideep Ahlawat brings grit, humor, and solidarity to the film as Salim, Ravi's co-worker and moral companion. Ahlawat, known for powerful roles, injects Salim with raw charisma and street-smart wisdom. A mirror and contrast. Salim acts as both foil and motivator to Ravi. While Ravi is introverted, Salim is expressive, often sarcastic, but deeply loyal. Ahlawat's scenes with Rao add warmth and occasional levity to the otherwise heavy narrative. Their chemistry feels natural and lived in, like men who have stood beside each other through unseen hardships. Ahlawat ensures that Salim is more than just comic relief or side character. He becomes the voice of collective anger in the working class. His performance amplifies the emotional stakes of the story without overshadowing the lead. 4. The contractor, played by Kumud Mishra. Kumud Mishra plays the cold, bureaucratic contractor, a character less defined by malice and more by apathetic indifference. Mishra's quiet, almost passive portrayal of power is chilling. His scenes are short, but his presence lingers. Calculated calmness. What makes his performance compelling is the unemotional delivery. He doesn't threaten, he simply informs. His cold politeness is a performance in itself, showing how power hides behind civility while enabling exploitation. Mishra, with minimal screen time, effectively represents the faceless system that values profit over people. 5. The union leader, played by Mohammed Zishan Ayub. Mohammed Zishan Ayub brings depth and sincerity to his role as the union organizer. Charismatic yet grounded, his performance is both motivational and empathetic. He becomes the ideological backbone of the film, articulating the struggles of the invisible workforce with passion. His delivery, body language, and conviction add authenticity to the political narrative of the film. His scenes with Ravi are among the film's most emotionally stirring. Supporting cast. Even minor characters, like the elderly neighbor, the school teacher, and fellow workers, are played by actors who bring texture and humanity to the story. These performances, though brief, are naturalistic and consistent with the film's immersive world-building. Overall impact of performances. Together, the cast of A Working Man, 2025, doesn't just act, they inhabit the world of the film. Their performances are understated yet emotionally potent. There are no star moments, no dramatic monologues. Instead, the emotional depth arises from realness, silence, and authenticity. The film succeeds because the performances are emotionally honest, grounded in lived experience, and free of theatrical excess. It's a masterclass in character-based storytelling, where the actors serve the story rather than their egos. Conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, features some of the most deeply human and affecting performances in recent cinema. The lead actor's quiet strength, the daughter's emotional complexity, and the supporting cast's raw believability combine to create a rich, immersive world where the audience doesn't just observe the characters, they live alongside them. This ensemble approach not only elevates the film but ensures that its emotional and social themes linger long after the credits roll. Certainly. Here's a comprehensive and detailed analysis of the direction in A Working Man, 2025, written in the third-person perspective, focusing on how the director influences the film's tone, mood, visual storytelling, pacing, and thematic depth. Clap aboard A Working Man, 2025, Direction Analysis. Directed by Anubhav Sinha, A Working Man, 2025, is a masterclass in subtle, immersive, and socially conscious storytelling. Known for his recent shift towards cinema that highlights real world issues and marginalized voices, Peña brings the same restrained, observational approach to this film, allowing its human drama to unfold naturally, without unnecessary dramatization. Rather than forcing the story upon the audience, the direction invites viewers into the quiet, often overlooked corners of working-class life, where small choices carry the weight of survival, dignity, and resistance. 1. Tone and mood. Quiet realism with emotional underpinnings. From the very beginning, Peña establishes a tone of quiet melancholy, underscored by realism. He resists romanticizing the hardship of labor or turning it into a melodramatic tale of victimhood. Instead, he creates a mood that is meditative, respectful, and deeply humane. The tone never dips into pity. It consistently treats its characters with dignity and agency. Scenes often linger a moment longer than expected, not for dramatic effect, but to allow the emotional weight of a moment to settle. Silence is frequently used as a tool, conveying what words cannot. The result is a film that feels intimate and reflective, allowing the viewer to absorb the emotional and thematic layers with sincerity. 2. Narrative structure and storytelling. Peña opts for a linear narrative, but with a contemplative rhythm. The story follows Ravi's life from his final days at work to his eventual moral awakening and transformation. While the structure may appear simple on the surface, its execution is rich with psychological and thematic nuance. The story unfolds through small, cumulative events rather than big turning points. This choice reinforces the idea that working-class struggles are not shaped by singular incidents, but by daily, grinding realities. Dialogue is used sparingly and purposefully. Much of the storytelling is visual, told through body language, glances, and environmental details. Emotional high points are internalized, making them more powerful when they finally break through to the surface. This grounded storytelling approach reflects the director's commitment to truth over theatrics. 3. Pacing. Deliberate, reflective, and consistent. The pacing of A Working Man is unhurried and deliberate, mirroring the slow, repetitive rhythm of its protagonist's life. For some viewers accustomed to faster narratives, the film might feel slow, but in reality, its measured pacing is intentional and thematically driven. Each moment is allowed to breathe, letting the viewer sit with the discomfort or beauty of a scene. Time feels almost suspended during certain sequences, like Ravi walking home at night or sharing a quiet meal with his daughter. The slower pace adds gravity to minor incidents, making them feel significant in a world where nothing comes easy. This pacing reflects the emotional inertia experienced by people stuck in systemic cycles, where change is rare and moments of clarity are hard-earned. 4. Visual language and shot composition. Visually, Peña employs a muted color palette, favoring grays, browns, and earth tones that echo the physical and emotional environment of the characters. The camera work is often minimalist, using wide static shots or slow handheld movement to create a sense of observation rather than intrusion. Notable stylistic choices. Static long takes allow real-time action to unfold naturally, creating intimacy and tension. Framing of Ravi, frequently placed in the background or edge of the frame, reinforcing his status as someone on the margins of society. Use of space. Cramped homes, bustling construction sites, and impersonal offices visually communicate class divide and social alienation. Environmental storytelling. Walls with peeling paint, lunchboxes, worn boots, and street noise all contribute to an immersive world-building experience. Peña avoids flashy cinematography. Instead, he uses the camera like a witness, focusing on authenticity and respect for the subject matter. 5. Sound design and music integration. The sound design in A Working Man is intentionally sparse and non-intrusive. Ambient noises, construction sounds, traffic, footsteps, and silence are used to create atmosphere rather than relying on an emotional score. Music, when it appears, is subtle and minimalist, often reflective rather than directive. The absence of background score in key emotional scenes forces the audience to sit with the rawness of the moment. Dialogues are delivered in natural cadence, sometimes overlapping, sometimes incomplete, much like real-life conversation. This creates a Verite-like experience, where the film feels less like fiction and more like a slice of life. 6. Thematic vision and directorial intent. Anubhav Sinha's direction clearly reflects a social and political consciousness. The film doesn't preach, it portrays. The issues of class, dignity, generational gaps, labor rights, and self-worth are embedded into the film's DNA, not as slogans, but as lived realities. He presents Ravi's journey not as a hero's quest, but as a search for self-respect in a world that constantly tries to take it away. This thematic focus is consistent and clear throughout. Cinna ensures that the personal and the political remain intertwined. Every personal decision Ravi makes reflects broader systemic issues, and this balance is expertly maintained. Conclusion. The Direction of a Working Man, 2025, is a triumph of subtlety, empathy, and purpose. Unabove Cinna crafts a film that respects its characters and audience equally, allowing the story to unfold with quiet strength and moral clarity. By focusing on tone, realism, and emotional restraint, and by avoiding manipulative techniques, Cinna creates an experience that is deeply human and profoundly moving. His stylistic discipline, visual humility, and commitment to truth make A Working Man not just a well-directed film, but an important and necessary one. Let me know if you'd like this adapted into a short script for narration, or translated into Urdu, or summarized for a video review format. Absolutely. Here's a comprehensive, third-person analysis of the cinematography in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how visual storytelling through camera work, lighting, and framing enhances the film's atmosphere, emotional depth, and narrative intent. Movie Camera A Working Man, 2025, Cinematography Analysis. The cinematography of A Working Man, 2025, executed by Sumit Mukherjee, or appropriate cinematographer, is a vital, unspoken character in the film. Quiet yet intentional, the camera doesn't just capture the protagonist's world, it interprets it. With its muted visual palette, emotionally resonant framing, and sharp attention to detail, the cinematography acts as a lens into the invisible lives of India's working class. Rather than employing stylistic excess or cinematic gimmickry, the film opts for a naturalistic visual style that enhances its realism and emotional restraint. Yet within that realism lies a masterful command of how to use light, shadow, and space to tell a deeper story. Camera 1. Camera angles and movement, stillness with purpose. The camera in A Working Man is largely observational, rarely intrusive. It uses static frames, medium-long shots, and handheld movement to reinforce a documentary-like authenticity. Key choices. Wide shots are used frequently, often showing Ravi as a small figure within a large, indifferent cityscape. This visual device underscores his powerlessness, his insignificance in the eyes of a system that doesn't value him. Over-the-shoulder and profile shots are employed during intimate conversations, giving the audience a fly-on-the-wall perspective, as though eavesdropping on real moments. Close-ups, when used sparingly, hit hard, particularly on Ravi's face. His expressions, often restrained, are made powerful through proximity. Slow pans and tracking shots during Ravi's walks to work emphasize the repetition and weariness of his daily life. The director of photography avoids showmanship. Each camera decision feels purposeful, guided by the film's tone of quiet struggle. Electric light bulb 2. Lighting, natural, muted, and expressive. Lighting in A Working Man plays a major role in building mood and realism. The cinematography leans heavily on natural or diffused lighting, with minimal artificiality. This gives the film a gritty, grounded visual texture that aligns with its themes. Lighting patterns. Daylight scenes, especially at construction sites, are often overexposed or washed out, capturing the harshness of labor under the sun. Home interiors are dimly lit, reflecting economic constraint. Light bulbs flicker, shadows dominate the corners, and windows filter in muted daylight. During emotional or turning point scenes, low-key lighting, high contrast between light and shadow, is subtly used to create internal tension. At night, street lamps, auto rickshaw lights, and neon shop signs create patches of artificial light in otherwise dark streets, symbolizing both isolation and survival. One of the most emotionally resonant moments, when Ravi sits in darkness after being laid off, is visually stunning in its use of shadow to represent inner collapse. Framed picture #3. Framing and composition, the language of marginalization. Framing is perhaps the film's most intellectually rich and emotionally effective visual tool. Ravi is often placed at the edge of the frame, never in the center, symbolizing his marginalization. Behind grills, fences, or window panes, visually suggesting entrapment or being locked out of opportunity. In crowded environments where he blends into the background, reinforcing how society fails to see individuals like him. Examples. A striking shot early in the film shows Ravi through a half-open door, eavesdropping on a conversation about layoffs, his part of the system yet excluded from power. During a monsoon rain sequence, Ravi is shown in shallow focus, while the background, workers continuing their labor, remains blurred. This subtly conveys his internal disconnect from a system he's losing faith in. The visual language constantly reflects Ravi's psychological and socio-economic state. Cityscape at Dusk 4. Use of environment, visual storytelling beyond dialogue. The cinematography transforms locations into characters. Mumbai's streets, construction sites, buses, and chawls aren't just backdrops. They are captured with such specificity that they convey class, culture, and mood. A construction site isn't just dusty. It's layered with machinery, rust, laborious clothing lines, and cracked cement. The cramped family apartment isn't just small. It's shot in a way that makes every corner feel loaded with compromise and routine. The protest scenes use chaotic handheld camera movement, capturing the tension and spontaneity of grassroots resistance. These choices immerse the viewer in Ravi's world without ever feeling staged or manipulative. Sparkles 5. Visually striking moments. Though grounded in realism, several moments stand out visually due to their emotional and symbolic power. The layoff letter scene, Ravi in an empty office, dwarfed by high ceilings and fluorescent lights, captures a man crushed by invisible power structures. Final protest scene. Wide shot of Ravi holding a handmade sign as workers gather behind him. The composition evokes classic imagery of resistance, but with quiet dignity. The ending, a medium-wide shot of Ravi carving a wooden toy at dusk, golden light illuminating his face, conveys renewal, peace, and humble defiance. These moments don't rely on CGI or stylistic flourishes. They are memorable because of their emotional honesty and symbolic simplicity. Film #6. Cinematography as emotional echo. The visual design of A Working Man doesn't just support the narrative, it amplifies its emotional core. Each camera angle, frame, and lighting choice echoes Ravi's inner landscape. His loneliness is shown through empty corridors and long walks. His dignity is shown through framing that never belittles him. His struggle is captured in repeated visual patterns, like worn shoes, bus stops, and labor queues. This visual echo creates a sympathetic rhythm between the character and the audience, deepening emotional engagement. Whiteheaver checkmark conclusion. The cinematography of A Working Man, 2025, is a masterclass in subtle, immersive visual storytelling. It does not shout, it listens. It does not dazzle, it reveals. Through careful framing, natural lighting, and evocative use of space, the film creates an emotional and political atmosphere that lingers long after the final frame. Rather than simply capturing images, the cinematography interprets the soul of the story, giving voice to those too often overlooked. In doing so, it transforms the film into a visual poem of quiet resistance, dignity, and hope. Would you like a visual breakdown of these scenes for a video or presentation format? I can also help translate this into Urdu or simplify it for a voiceover script. Certainly. Here's a detailed, third-person analysis of the editing and pacing in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how its rhythm, transitions, and editorial decisions shape the film's emotional and narrative power. Black Scissors #A Working Man, 2025, Editing and Pacing Analysis. The editing of A Working Man, 2025, led by veteran editor Yasha Ramchandani, or another editor if known, is not flashy or aggressive. Instead, it is deliberate, invisible, and deeply purposeful. It mirrors the film's tone, restrained, thoughtful, and emotionally grounded. The rhythm of the film moves like the life it depicts, quiet, repetitive, but punctuated with meaning. Rather than using rapid cuts or stylistic gimmicks to maintain attention, the editing allows moments to breathe and characters to exist in real time. In doing so, it serves as a narrative conscience, highlighting silence, stillness, and emotional weight in a way that only skilled editing can achieve. Stopwatch #1. Overall flow and narrative cohesion. From start to finish, the film's flow is cohesive and rhythmically consistent, following a chronological, character-driven structure. Transitions are smooth and understated, favoring cuts that prioritize emotional continuity over visual flair. Each scene connects organically to the next, with no jarring tonal shifts or abrupt time jumps. Moments of high emotion, like Ravi's dismissal or the protest scenes, are allowed to unfold slowly, which adds gravity and weight. Transitional sequences, like daily commutes or meals, serve as emotional buffers, giving the audience space to absorb what just occurred. The editing avoids over-sensationalizing moments. It instead respects the viewer's emotional intelligence, letting them sit with the characters in reflection. Film #2. Seamless transitions and emotional continuity. A major strength of the editing is its ability to bridge scenes with emotional flow rather than plot necessity. The transitions are often guided by sound bridges, where the audio from the next scene starts before the cut. Visual echoes, repetition of similar shots or locations, like Ravi's morning routine. Lingering shots that transition into the next without hurry, creating a meditative pace. This creates a sense of internal continuity, where the viewer isn't simply watching events, but experiencing the gradual emotional transformation of Ravi. One striking example is the transition from the layoff to Ravi's silent dinner, with no dialogue, no dramatic music, just slow, rhythmic cross-cutting between two silent spaces, the sterile corporate world and the modest family home. The contrast lands with emotional force because the edit trusts the audience to feel the shift without verbal cues. Total 3. Pacing, slow-burning but purposeful. The pacing of A Working Man is unapologetically slow by commercial standards, but this slowness is intentional, thematic, and emotionally effective. Slow pacing reflects the monotony of working-class life, the repetition of tasks, routes, and choices. The emotional inertia of Ravi, who is stuck in a system that doesn't allow momentum. The lack of sensationalism in the film's treatment of labor, dignity, and family. This pace allows the viewer to observe details often ignored in mainstream cinema. The way Ravi folds his work uniform, the quiet glances exchanged at dinner, the pause before speaking up at a union meeting. These small moments carry emotional truth, and fast pacing would have flattened their impact. That said, the film avoids stagnation through well-timed narrative beats. New conflicts or revelations occur roughly every 15 to 20 minutes, keeping the viewer anchored. The final act sees a gradual quickening of pace, as Ravi finds his voice and the union scenes begin, adding narrative acceleration and emotional payoff. Scales #4. Editorial discipline. What's left out matters. One of the film's most powerful editorial strengths lies in its restraint. The editor resists over-explaining plot points, cutting to reaction shots unnecessarily, using montage or music to manufacture emotion. Instead, the edit relies on absence, scenes that begin mid-conversation, or end abruptly after a glance or line. This sense of life continuing off-screen adds to the realism and immersiveness of the story. For example, Ravi's confrontation with his supervisor is not shown in full, but rather the build-up and emotional aftermath are focused on. This keeps the audience engaged emotionally, not just factually. 5. Editing as a tool for empathy. The editorial rhythm is not just about pace, it's about empathy. By allowing time for viewers to dwell in a character's silence or loneliness, the film builds emotional intimacy that a faster edit would disrupt. The pauses in conversations, the silences during meals, and the stillness before decisions, all these are moments of editorial courage. They dare to slow down, to make the audience feel what Ravi feels. Even the use of jump cuts, rarely deployed, are reserved for moments of emotional fragmentation, such as Ravi's mental strain after losing his job. The editing thus mirrors Ravi's inner turbulence through external stillness, which enhances the emotional resonance of the film. Whiteheavy checkmark conclusion. The editing and pacing of A Working Man, 2025, are an exercise in emotional precision and narrative patience. Through its steady rhythm, seamless transitions, and restrained approach, the film allows each moment to land with honesty and gravity. Rather than racing toward plot points, the film's edit stays loyal to its protagonist's internal journey, making the viewer not just a spectator, but a companion to his quiet resistance and emotional awakening. It is this subtle editorial philosophy, of letting silence speak, of allowing moments to breathe, that makes A Working Man not just a well-edited film, but a deeply felt cinematic experience. Would you like this adapted into a short video script, Urdu narration, or a summary for a film review? I can help format it for your specific purpose. Certainly. Here's a detailed, third-person analysis of the soundtrack and score in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how music and silence are used as narrative tools to shape atmosphere, emotion, and meaning throughout the film. Musical note: A Working Man, 2025, soundtrack and score analysis. In A Working Man, 2025, the music is not an accessory, it is a subtle emotional undercurrent that breathes life into the narrative without ever drawing attention to itself. The original score, composed by Daniel B. George, or the actual composer, if credited, is an exercise in musical restraint and emotional clarity. Rather than overwhelming the viewer, the soundtrack functions like a heartbeat, quiet, persistent, and deeply human. Through its use of ambient textures, local instrumentation, minimalist themes, and moments of intentional silence, the film crafts an oral environment that mirrors the life and emotional journey of its protagonist, Ravi. It is a soundscape of struggle, solitude, dignity, and resilience. Musical score 1. Subtlety over spectacle, a minimalist approach. The score is minimalist in its construction, featuring soft strings, light percussion, and sparse piano motifs. It avoids dramatic orchestration or synthetic sounds that would feel out of place in the grounded world of the film. Background instrumentation often blends with diegetic sounds, like hammering at construction sites, the hum of city life, or the rustle of fabric in Ravi's home. The music rarely leads a scene. Instead, it follows the character's emotional rhythm, rising only when necessary. This musical subtlety reflects the film's tonal maturity and respect for realism. It allows the viewer to remain immersed in Ravi's world without ever feeling manipulated by the score. Multiple musical notes 2. Emotional undercurrents, music as silent narration. Though the music never dominates, it plays a crucial role in amplifying emotional moments. It often arrives gently, almost imperceptibly, and fades away just as quietly. Key emotional beats enhanced by score. Ravi's layoff scene. A low-register drone with faint piano chords plays under the silence of the moment, making the scene emotionally raw without being melodramatic. Family dinner after bad news. A warm but somber string arrangement subtly conveys the emotional disconnect and unspoken sorrow in the room. Protest march toward the end. A more dynamic and rhythmic motif, driven by local percussion, creates a sense of momentum and collective willpower, marking Ravi's transformation. In these moments, the music does not instruct emotion. It echoes it, like a compassionate observer rather than a director of feeling. Repeat button 3. Recurring motifs, themes of labor and hope. The film uses recurring musical motifs to mirror Ravi's emotional state across his arc. These motifs are not full melodies but fragments, short progressions or textures that evolve as the story progresses. Notable motifs. Ravi's theme, a short, 3-note piano phrase introduced in the opening sequence. Initially cold and tentative, it reappears later with warmer instrumentation, symbolizing his inner resilience. Work cycle motif, a rhythmic, repetitive tapping sound, reminiscent of tools at a construction site, plays softly under certain montages. This functions as a musical metaphor for monotony and labor. Hope motif. Introduced in the final act, a slow violin swell paired with ambient harmonium signals a shift from helplessness to quiet defiance. These motifs form a musical narrative that parallels Ravi's emotional journey, from survival to self-realization. Speaker off 4. The use of silence, music by absence. Perhaps the most profound sound in A Working Man is silence. The absence of music is used strategically, especially during emotionally charged or morally complex moments. The scene where Ravi folds his uniform after losing his job is left entirely unscored, with only the ambient sound of distant traffic and utensils clinking in the kitchen. This silence magnifies the emotional isolation Ravi experiences. The climactic argument with his employer is deliberately stripped of music, allowing the raw tension in the performance to dominate. These silent spaces create emotional vacuum zones where the audience can sit with discomfort, empathy, or reflection, deepening emotional engagement far more than music could. 5. Cultural integration, sounds of the everyday. The soundtrack also integrates cultural and environmental soundscapes into its score, incorporating street musicians, heard faintly in the distance during outdoor scenes. Local festival drumming, which underscores certain community moments. Religious chants and temple bells, used in the background of scenes involving family or tradition. These sound elements create a sonic authenticity that enhances the sense of place while also reinforcing the interplay between the personal and the cultural in Ravi's world. Sunrise 6. Final sequence, a musical payoff. The closing scenes, Ravi returning home after a small act of defiance or carving a toy for his child, are scored with a gentle culmination of all recurring motifs. The piano theme is now supported by warm ambient strings, soft tabla percussion, a faint backing of harmonium. This moment delivers an emotional payoff not through dialogue or dramatic visuals, but through a musical swell that carries hope and closure. The music does not resolve all conflicts, but it suggests that something inside Ravi has changed. The listener feels not triumph, but earned dignity. White heavy checkmark conclusion. The soundtrack and score of A Working Man, 2025, exemplify musical storytelling at its finest, quiet, purposeful, and deeply human. By embracing minimalism, recurring motifs, cultural textures, and the power of silence, the film crafts an emotional atmosphere that resonates long after the credits roll. In a world saturated with overstated scores and manipulative crescendos, a working man dares to ask, what if music didn't speak for the character, but with them? And in doing so, it creates a sonic journey that is as honest and unforgettable as its story. Would you like this analysis restructured as a review video voiceover, a summary in Urdu, or formatted for a social media post or podcast script? Certainly. Here's a comprehensive third-person analysis of the themes and messages in A Working Man, 2025, exploring how the film conveys deeper ideas and whether it leaves a meaningful and lasting impression on its audience. A Working Man, 2025, Themes and Messages Analysis. At first glance, A Working Man, 2025, appears to be a quiet, character-driven story about a man navigating job loss and personal struggle. But beneath its intimate storytelling lies a rich tapestry of universal themes, ranging from dignity in labor to identity, class conflict, resilience, and the quiet heroism of ordinary people. These themes are not delivered through heavy exposition or grand speeches. Instead, they emerge organically, shaped by the actions, silences, and emotions of its protagonist and the world he inhabits. Hammerandrench 1. Dignity of labor. Perhaps the most prominent theme in the film is the inherent dignity found in hard, honest work. Ravi, the protagonist, is a man defined by his job, not just financially, but spiritually. His daily routine, his pride in his uniform, his silence during family meals, all of it reinforces the personal identity he's built around his role as a worker. When that job is taken away, it's not just income that disappears, it's self-worth. This emotional fallout is treated with great sensitivity and realism, reflecting how work is often tied to one's place in society and within their own family. Rather than romanticizing the working class, the film respects their toil. It portrays labor not as heroic, but as foundational, a quiet struggle that deserves recognition, not pity. Handshake 2. Class struggle and economic injustice. A Working Man subtly but sharply critiques economic structures that render workers disposable. The company's impersonal layoff process, the lack of severance, and the casual way Ravi's years of service are dismissed all point to a system that values profit over people. The union subplot, where workers cautiously rally for their rights, exposes the fear-driven silence common among underrepresented laborists in both developed and developing economies. The film avoids turning this into a polemic. It doesn't point fingers at one villain but rather portrays a systemic failure, one that is faceless, quiet, and deeply entrenched. It challenges viewers to see the power imbalance between employer and employee and the human cost of economic efficiency. Family Man Woman Girl 3. Family, masculinity and emotional suppression. Ravi's emotional arc also explores male vulnerability and the role of a father-husband in a working-class family. Early in the film, Ravi speaks little at home. He sees himself as a provider, not a communicator. But as he loses his job and confidence, his silence grows heavier, now weighted with shame and helplessness. This explores how patriarchal expectations can damage emotional well-being, not just for men, but for the families who depend on their emotional presence. The theme is addressed with nuance. There are no emotional breakdowns or tearful confessions, but instead a quiet internal unraveling, captured through gestures, body language, and silent moments at the dinner table. 4. Isolation versus solidarity. The film repeatedly contrasts isolation with community solidarity. After losing his job, Ravi withdraws, ashamed and alone. Yet, it's only through conversations with fellow workers, quiet support from his wife, and eventually participating in union meetings that he begins to rediscover strength through unity. The film suggests that collective resilience is a powerful force, perhaps the only defense against a system built to divide and exploit. This idea is subtle but impactful. In a world that profits from worker fragmentation, coming together is an act of defiance. Seedling 5. Hope through resistance. Though the film is steeped in realism and restraint, it ends on a quietly hopeful note. Ravi doesn't topple a system. He doesn't become a revolutionary. But he learns to speak, to push back, and to claim his voice. His final act, whether it's confronting his employer, supporting a co-worker, or simply looking his daughter in the eye with newfound dignity, becomes a symbol of inner resistance. The film's message is clear. Resistance doesn't have to be loud or violent. Sometimes, hope is choosing not to give up, choosing to stand, even when standing alone. Left-pointing magnifying glass 6. Silence as a thematic device. A unique feature of A Working Man is its use of silence not just as a stylistic choice, but a thematic one. Ravi rarely articulates his feelings. The world around him doesn't offer space for vulnerability. Yet, it is in these moments of silence, lingering pauses, unfinished sentences, stares, that the film screams its loudest messages about emotional suppression, societal neglect, and internalized grief. Silence here becomes a symbol of what society doesn't allow men like Ravi to express, and by extension, what it doesn't want to hear. 7. Identity and self-worth. Lastly, the film grapples with the idea of self-worth being tied to societal roles. Who is Ravi when he is no longer a working man? What value does society place on someone who produces nothing? The film gently dismantles the idea that worth is transactional, instead asserting that a person's value is intrinsic, not earned through labor or validated through titles. This theme is most apparent in Ravi's transformation, not through reclaiming a job, but through reclaiming his agency, his dignity, and his voice. White heavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, is a quietly revolutionary film that does not shout, but resonates deeply. Its themes, of labor and dignity, class and identity, family and resilience, are not forced upon the viewer but rather lived through the characters. By refusing to indulge in melodrama or preachiness, the film allows its messages to settle slowly and powerfully. It leaves viewers not just thinking, but feeling, about the quiet heroes who build the world with their hands, and what it truly means to live with dignity in an indifferent world. Would you like this transformed into a narration for a YouTube essay, Urdu translation, or a summary suitable for a voiceover or podcast intro? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of the visual effects, VFX, and CGI in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how effectively the film uses visual effects to support its grounded storytelling without disrupting realism. Computer Monitor # A Working Man, 2025, Visual Effects and CGI Analysis. Unlike high-concept science fiction or superhero blockbusters, A Working Man, 2025, is a grounded, emotionally-driven drama set in an urban, working-class landscape. One might assume visual effects play little to no role in such a film, but A Working Man demonstrates that when used discreetly and purposefully, VFX and CGI can deeply enhance even the most realistic stories without ever calling attention to themselves. The film employs a blend of practical and digital effects, not for spectacle, but to maintain immersion, enhance mood, and enrich the visual storytelling in subtle but powerful ways. Cityscape with Sunset 1. Invisible VFX, enhancing realism, not replacing it. Perhaps the most admirable quality of the film's visual effects is how invisible they are. The audience rarely notices them because the effects are integrated seamlessly into the visual fabric of the story. Examples of invisible VFX. Urban background enhancements. Many of the construction sites, slum rooftops, or high-rise cityscapes are digitally extended to add depth, verticality, and authenticity to the urban setting without relying on expensive on-location shoots. Weather and atmosphere effects. Rainfall, dust storms at construction sites, or overcast sky gradients are digitally augmented to reflect Ravi's emotional states. These environmental VFX are so natural that most viewers wouldn't recognize them as artificial. Rather than being a spectacle, VFX here is used as a mood-setting tool, enhancing realism without ever competing with it. Building construction #2. Practical effects first, real over rendered. The film remains loyal to practical effects wherever possible, especially in scenes involving physical labor and machinery, crowds and protests, household interiors and damage, e.g., broken appliances or weathered tools. This grounded approach reinforces the film's naturalistic aesthetic, allowing the audience to feel like they are observing real lives in motion. However, when digital effects are used, they extend the practical world, never replacing it. For instance, construction site sequences blend actual machinery with CGI dust, debris, and building framework extensions to create a larger-than-life sense of scale without needing expansive sets. Practical stunts, like near-miss accidents or minor structural collapses, are augmented with CGI enhancement, making them visually impactful without risking actor safety or realism. Artist Palette 3. Symbolic visual augmentation. Interestingly, VFX is occasionally used to quietly reflect emotional or symbolic elements of the narrative. Subtle visual symbolism. During moments of personal defeat, Ravi is shown walking through increasingly desaturated urban environments, with muted colors enhanced digitally to echo his internal bleakness. In the final act, When Ravi begins to reclaim agency, there's a gradual shift toward warmer tones and sharper contrasts, subtly achieved through digital color grading and ambient VFX. These artistic enhancements are emotionally driven, not plot-driven, showing how VFX can serve thematic storytelling rather than action or fantasy. 4. Crowd simulation and realism in large-scale scenes. The film's protest scenes, union meetings, or labor marches involve larger groups of extras. While a portion of these scenes were filmed practically, the depth of the crowd and scale of the movement were expanded using digital crowd replication and compositing. This allows the film to portray the scale of worker unrest without the budget or logistics of real massive gatherings. VFX artists used AI-assisted crowd simulation to create varied, believable participants. Lighting and shadow integration are finely tuned, so the digital extras blend seamlessly with real ones. As a result, the scenes feel authentic, large-scale, but still grounded in realism. Wrench 5. Technical sophistication with restraint. From a technical standpoint, the film's VFX may not be groundbreaking in terms of complexity, but what it achieves is stylistic coherence and emotional support. No obvious green screen artifacts, no uncanny textures, and no lighting inconsistencies. Even fast-paced sequences, such as Ravi's near fall at a construction site, are rendered with believable physics and practical texture layering, which makes the moment feel real and immediate. This is a triumph of restrained visual storytelling. The VFX team understood that their job was not to impress, but to blend into the world so completely that their work goes unnoticed. Scales #6. Comparison: practical versus digital execution. The best way to evaluate the success of the film's VFX is to compare practical versus digital execution. Element practical effects, digital effects result. Construction tools are machinery, real equipment. Actors trained on-site, CGI used for movement exaggeration and background machinery, seamless integration. Weather on-set, rain rigs. Dust machines augmented with CGI for continuity. Realism highly immersive. Crowd scenes, 100 to 150 real extras extended digitally to simulate thousands believable scale. Environments, real Mumbai Dhaka neighborhoods, digitally extended backgrounds and sky replacements enhanced realism. This blend ensures that nothing looks synthetic or out of place, while still allowing the filmmakers to push the boundaries of what's possible on a modest budget. White heavy checkmark. Conclusion. The visual effects and CGI in A Working Man, 2025, exemplify how digital technology can be used not for grandeur, but for honest storytelling. By integrating VFX with practical cinematography and natural performances, the film creates a visually authentic world that supports the narrative without overshadowing it. There are no explosions, no magic, no superhuman feats, just the art of realism enhanced through invisible craftsmanship. And in a story about overlooked laborious and the dignity of the ordinary, that creative restraint becomes its own quiet revolution. Would you like this section adapted into a video script format, Urdu translation, or formatted for use in a review blog or podcast? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of the set design and locations in A Working Man, 2025, explaining how the production design contributes to the film's authenticity and storytelling depth. House A Working Man, 2025, Set Design and Locations Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is a film deeply rooted in the everyday realities of working-class life. Its set design and choice of locations play a pivotal role in shaping the film's immersive world, providing not only a visually authentic backdrop but also reinforcing the narrative's emotional and thematic layers. Cityscape at Dusk 1. Realism through location choices. The film primarily unfolds in urban, industrial, and residential settings that are carefully selected to reflect the socioeconomic status and lifestyle of its protagonist, Ravi. The construction sites, crowded markets, narrow alleyways, and modest family homes are all depicted with an unflinching eye for detail. Filming on location in actual urban neighborhoods and working-class districts adds a tangible texture to the film's environment, one that studio sets would struggle to replicate authentically. The locations feel lived in and dynamic, with background activity that enriches the narrative world without distracting from the central characters. This commitment to real-world environments grounds the story in a reality that resonates with audiences familiar with such settings, enhancing empathy and connection. Hammer and Wrench #2. Production design, props and details. The props and set dressing work in tandem with locations to build an intricate sense of place and time. Everyday objects such as worn-out tools, construction helmets, dusty boots, and weathered uniforms are meticulously selected and placed to reflect Ravi's occupation and his pride in his work. In the domestic scenes, items like family photographs, humble furniture, peeling paint, and simple kitchenware underscore the modest means and struggles of the household. Even small details, like the scratches on the wall or the creased union membership cards, carry narrative weight, suggesting histories and relationships beyond the immediate story. This attention to detail creates a richly textured visual environment, where every element tells part of the story. Office Building 3. Contrast between spaces. The film uses set design to highlight the contrasts between different worlds within the story. The sterile, impersonal offices of the company's management starkly contrast with the gritty, bustling construction sites and cramped homes. This juxtaposition visually reinforces themes of power imbalance, alienation, and class divide, emphasizing how different physical spaces reflect the social and emotional divides among characters. The cold, minimal design of corporate spaces, with their glass walls and polished surfaces, feels alien and oppressive compared to the warm but worn environments inhabited by Ravi and his co-workers. This deliberate spatial contrast deepens the narrative's critique of economic inequality. Houses #4. Symbolism embedded in locations. Beyond realism, the locations carry symbolic weight that amplifies the film's emotional impact. Ravi's home, modest and sometimes cramped, symbolizes both sanctuary and constraint, a place of love and struggle. The construction site serves as a metaphor for constant rebuilding and instability, a physical space mirroring Ravi's precarious economic position and uncertain future. Public spaces like markets and streets depict the larger community and social fabric, emphasizing themes of solidarity and shared hardship. Through these settings, the film invites viewers to reflect on the relationship between environment and identity. Movie Camera 5. Cinematic use of space. The director and cinematographer work closely with the production design to utilize the physical spaces for storytelling. Scenes are often framed to show the claustrophobia of cramped living conditions, or the vastness and danger of construction sites, using wide shots and tight close-ups to evoke emotional states. Movement through locations, such as Ravi's daily commute, his interactions at the worksite, or moments at home, creates a rhythm that grounds the narrative in time and place. Natural light filtering through dusty windows, neon signs flickering in the streets, and the interplay of shadows add visual richness and texture. The film's use of real locations combined with thoughtful framing immerses the viewer fully into Ravi's world. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. In A Working Man, 2025, the set design and locations do much more than provide a backdrop. They are integral to the storytelling itself. Through authentic locations, carefully chosen props, and deliberate spatial contrasts, the film crafts a believable and compelling world that visually reinforces its themes of labor, class, identity, and resilience. This meticulous production design invites viewers not only to observe but to feel the lived reality of the protagonist, making the story's emotional beats more resonant and impactful. Would you like me to prepare this as a video narration script, a summary for a review blog, or translate it into Urdu? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of the dialogue and script in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how the screenplay contributes to the film's emotional depth, realism, and memorability. Clapperboard A Working Man, 2025, Dialogue and Script Analysis. The script of A Working Man, 2025, stands as one of the film's most compelling strengths. It strikes a careful balance between naturalism and poignancy, crafting dialogue that feels both authentic to its working-class setting and emotionally resonant, avoiding cliches or forced dramatics. Speaking Head in Silhouette #1. Naturalism and authenticity. The dialogue is written to reflect the rhythms and cadences of everyday speech among working-class characters. Conversations often feel unscripted and organic, with silences, pauses, and unfinished sentences that mirror real communication, especially within families or workplace settings. The script avoids overly polished or theatrical language, instead embracing colloquialisms, dialect, and culturally specific references that ground the story in its socio-economic context. This naturalism helps the audience deeply connect with the characters, making their struggles and joys feel immediate and genuine. Broken Heart 2. Emotional weight and restraint. While the dialogue is often understated, it carries significant emotional weight. Characters rarely indulge in melodramatic speeches. Instead, emotional impact is conveyed through subtext, implication, and brief but meaningful exchanges. For example, Ravi's interactions with his wife or co-workers often involve seemingly mundane statements that, upon reflection, reveal layers of worry, pride, or fear. Moments of tension or heartbreak are communicated through economy of words, which makes those lines linger with greater intensity. This restrained writing style fits the film's overall tone, quiet yet powerful. Electric Light Bulb 3. Sharp wit and insight. Though the film is primarily serious and contemplative, the script is punctuated by moments of sharp wit and irony. These moments often emerge in workplace banter, highlighting camaraderie or frustration with a subtle humor that humanizes the characters. The wit is never gratuitous. It serves to relieve tension and deepen characterization, showing how humor survives even under difficult circumstances. Additionally, the script features insightful observations on class, labor, and dignity, often woven into everyday dialogue rather than heavy-handed speeches. Pushpin 4. Memorable lines and defining moments. The script includes several standout lines that crystallize the film's core themes and emotional arcs. Some of these lines act as quiet manifestos on dignity and perseverance, such as Ravi's simple but profound assertion of self-worth in the face of unemployment. Others capture the pain of loss or the hope of solidarity in just a few words, lines that audiences may recall long after the film ends. These memorable moments are rarely shouted or emphasized, instead delivered with subtlety that invites viewers to internalize their meaning. Counterclockwise Arrows 5. Dialogue as a reflection of relationships. The script uses dialogue to reveal the complex dynamics between characters. The conversations between Ravi and his family members expose underlying tensions, unspoken fears, and deep bonds. Workplace interactions range from supportive to confrontational, reflecting the hierarchy and precariousness of blue-collar labor. This layered writing ensures that dialogue is never merely functional but always serves to develop character relationships and advance emotional storytelling. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. The dialogue and script of A Working Man, 2025, excel through their authenticity, emotional subtlety, and insightful writing. The screenplay captures the speech patterns of its characters with care, while delivering moments of sharp wit and profound emotion. It avoids melodrama, instead using understated yet impactful language to define the film's themes of dignity, struggle, and resilience. By doing so, the script not only supports but elevates the performances and direction, leaving the audience with lines that linger and characters that feel deeply real. Would you like this to be adapted into a video narration, short summary for social media, or translated into Urdu? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of the genre execution in A Working Man, 2025, examining how the film engages with and challenges genre expectations. Movie Camera A Working Man, 2025, Genre Execution Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is primarily a social realist drama deeply rooted in the experiences of the working class, with strong elements of character-driven storytelling and emotional introspection. Rather than following conventional genre formulas rigidly, the film navigates and, in some cases, subverts typical genre expectations to deliver a fresh and compelling cinematic experience. Books 1. Adherence to social realism drama. The film embraces many hallmarks of social realist drama, including a focus on everyday struggles, economic hardship, and interpersonal relationships. Emphasis on authentic environments and characters that feel grounded rather than stylized. Use of naturalistic dialogue in situations that reflect broader societal issues without overt moralizing. This foundation ensures that the film stays firmly within a genre known for its empathy and critique of social structures. Counterclockwise Arrows 2. Subversion of melodrama and sentimentality. While the film deals with potentially heavy themes such as unemployment, labor rights, and family stress, it notably avoids melodramatic excess. Emotional scenes are treated with restraint, focusing on subtle gestures, silences, and real-world consequences rather than heightened dramatics. It subverts the expectation that a social drama must culminate in cathartic or inspirational moments, opting instead for a more nuanced, sometimes ambiguous resolution that reflects real life's complexities. The lack of easy answers or neat resolutions challenges the audience to engage critically rather than passively consuming a typical overcoming adversity narrative. Scales #3. Balancing drama with moments of levity. Despite the film's serious tone, A Working Man balances dramatic tension with moments of understated humor and warmth. Workplace interactions, family banter, and moments of personal reflection often contain quiet wit and irony, adding layers to the characters and preventing the narrative from feeling oppressively bleak. This balance aligns with genre conventions that acknowledge the coexistence of hardship and human resilience. Performing Arts 4. Minimal reliance on genre clichés. The film consciously eschews clichés and stereotypes commonly found in labor or working-class dramas. Characters are portrayed with nuance, avoiding one-dimensional heroic worker or villainous boss caricatures. The story avoids predictable tropes such as sudden redemption arcs, dramatic betrayals, or exaggerated conflicts for cheap emotional payoff. Instead, it presents complex characters with conflicting motivations and moral ambiguities, which enrich the narrative texture. Hourglass with Flowing Sand 5. Pacing and genre expectations. Unlike some dramas that use slow pacing as a stylistic choice, A Working Man maintains a steady, engaging rhythm that respects the audience's attention without sacrificing depth. It avoids drawn-out exposition or filler scenes, focusing instead on purposeful moments that advance character or theme. The film's pacing allows for both reflective quietude and moments of narrative propulsion, ensuring the drama unfolds organically rather than feeling dragged or rushed. Whiteheavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, executes its genre with a thoughtful blend of adherence and innovation. It respects the core tenets of social realist drama, authenticity, empathy, and social critique, while subverting melodramatic and cliché-ridden tendencies. The film's balanced use of drama and subtle humor, alongside its complex characters and realistic resolutions, result in a genre piece that feels both familiar and refreshingly original. This nuanced genre execution invites viewers to reflect deeply on the realities portrayed, elevating the film beyond formulaic storytelling. Would you like me to prepare this analysis in a video script format, a brief review summary, or translate it into Urdu? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of the social and cultural commentary in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how the film addresses contemporary issues and cultural realities. Globe showing Europe-Africa A Working Man, 2025, Social and Cultural Commentary Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is not just a personal story. It is a thoughtful reflection on pressing social and cultural issues that affect millions in the modern working class. The film weaves its commentary into the narrative with a deft hand, making the social critique feel both organic and urgent without ever slipping into preachiness or forced messaging. Factory 1. Exploration of labor and economic precarity. At its core, the film offers a gritty examination of labor conditions and economic insecurity faced by workers today. The protagonist, Ravi, embodies the struggles of millions contending with unstable employment, low wages, and limited upward mobility. The film highlights the precarious nature of gig and contract work, portraying the uncertainty and stress it imposes on individuals and families. By showing daily hardships, from workplace safety risks to financial anxiety, the film presents a humanized portrait of labor exploitation without resorting to didacticism. This exploration raises important questions about economic justice and workers' rights, resonating with contemporary debates worldwide. Handshake 2. Class and social divide. The film subtly but powerfully critiques the widening social and economic divide. Through contrasting settings, the modest, crowded living quarters of Ravi and the sterile offices of corporate management, it visually and narratively underscores disparities in power and privilege. The narrative explores how class affects access to resources, respect, and opportunity, emphasizing systemic inequality. The tension between working-class solidarity and individual survival strategies reveals the complex social dynamics within marginalized communities. This nuanced depiction encourages viewers to consider the broader structural factors shaping everyday lives. Family 3. Cultural context and family dynamics. Embedded within the social commentary is a rich portrayal of cultural values and family relationships. The film explores traditional family roles, expectations, and intergenerational tensions common in many working-class cultures. Ravi's dedication to providing for his family reflects deeply ingrained cultural ideals of responsibility and sacrifice. At the same time, the narrative does not romanticize these dynamics. It acknowledges the emotional toll and conflicts they can generate. This cultural layer adds depth and relatability, showing how social issues intersect with personal identity and community. Performing Arts 4. Handling sensitive topics with care. The film tackles complex and sensitive issues such as unemployment, mental health, and workplace injustice with empathy and subtlety. Rather than sensationalizing hardship, it presents these realities with nuance, allowing characters' experiences and emotions to speak for themselves. The script avoids simplistic solutions or moralizing, instead reflecting the messiness and ambiguity inherent in these struggles. This respectful treatment invites audience reflection and dialogue rather than prescribing viewpoints. Counterclockwise arrows 5. Organic integration of social themes. One of the film's greatest strengths is how seamlessly it integrates social and cultural commentary into the story. The themes arise naturally from the characters' lives, choices, and environments rather than feeling appended or extraneous. This integration allows the film to maintain narrative momentum and emotional engagement, while simultaneously delivering meaningful insights. The social messages emerge through subtle symbolism, dialogue, and visual storytelling, making the commentary immersive rather than overt. White heavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, stands out as a powerful social and cultural critique embedded within a deeply personal story. It addresses contemporary labor struggles, class divides, and cultural dynamics with authenticity, sensitivity, and nuance. The film's ability to handle these complex topics organically, without preachiness or cliché, allows it to resonate profoundly with audiences, inviting reflection on broader societal challenges through the lens of individual experience. Would you like this analysis crafted into a video narration script, a concise social media post, or translated into Urdu? Certainly. Here's a comprehensive third-person analysis of audience engagement in A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how the film connects emotionally, intellectually, and viscerally with its viewers. Performing Arts A Working Man, 2025, Audience Engagement Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is more than a film. It is an emotional journey that invites viewers not only to witness a life but to feel it deeply. Through its grounded storytelling, relatable protagonist, and universal themes, the film cultivates a strong and lasting engagement with its audience. It doesn't rely on spectacle or sensationalism, but instead uses empathy and realism as its core tools to establish connection. Broken Heart 1. Emotional resonance. At the heart of the film's audience engagement is its emotional authenticity. Viewers are drawn into Ravi's world with remarkable intimacy, from his early morning commutes to the silent frustrations of unpaid bills or unspoken family tension. The film creates a shared emotional experience. Audiences feel Ravi's exhaustion, his fleeting hopes, his small victories, and devastating setbacks. Key moments, such as a heartfelt conversation with his child or a sudden job loss, are likely to move audiences to tears or quiet reflection, not through manipulation but through sincere human moments. This emotional resonance ensures that the film stays with viewers long after the credits roll. Repeat button 2. Invitation to reflection and discussion. The film's portrayal of labor, dignity, and family invites active contemplation and dialogue. It raises questions about economic systems, identity, masculinity, and societal expectations, without providing didactic answers. Viewers are encouraged to reflect on their own lives or the experiences of those around them, making the film deeply relatable across cultures and contexts. Its layered storytelling and nuanced character arcs inspire post-viewing discussions, whether about the ethics of modern labor, the toll of economic stress, or the quiet power of resilience. These aspects make it ideal for group viewings, classroom discussions, or community screenings. Counterclockwise arrows 3. Rewatchability and subtle layers. While not an action-driven or twist-heavy film, A Working Man, 2025, rewards multiple viewings. On a second or third watch, audiences often notice subtleties in performance, symbolic visual cues, or deeper thematic motifs that enrich the narrative. The film's restrained storytelling style and layered emotional beats mean that much is said without words, and these quiet moments often grow in power with reflection. Its rewatchability lies in emotional depth, not plot surprises. Face with Tears of Joy Crying Face 4. Spectrum of emotional reactions. Despite its predominantly serious tone, the film offers emotional variety that keeps viewers engaged. There are moments of gentle humor, often in workplace banter or family exchanges, that elicit warm smiles and relief from the tension. Tense scenes, such as confrontations with authority or moments of economic uncertainty, create palpable anxiety and suspense. The highs and lows of Ravi's journey elicit a rollercoaster of emotions, from frustration and sympathy to admiration and heartbreak. This emotional dynamism prevents the film from ever feeling monotonous or emotionally one-note. Handshake 5. Connection across demographics. One of the film's major accomplishments is its ability to resonate across diverse audience segments. For working-class viewers, the story feels immediately personal, a mirror of their daily battles. For younger audiences or those in more privileged settings, it offers a powerful window into unseen realities, fostering empathy and awareness. For critics and cinephiles, the film's craft, its minimalism, realism, and thematic maturity, offers ample ground for critical appreciation. This broad emotional accessibility enhances its cultural impact and staying power. White heavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, engages its audience not with loud spectacles but with quiet truths, through every whispered conversation, weary glance, and silent act of perseverance. The film creates a deep, personal connection with viewers, inviting them to feel, reflect, and discuss. Its emotional honesty, thematic richness, and universal relatability make it a cinematic experience that lingers, sparks conversation, and encourages return visits to its world. Would you like this turned into a video voiceover, a social media review card, or translated into Urdu for a regional audience? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of comparisons to similar films in relation to A Working Man, 2025, exploring how it holds its ground within its genre, thematic predecessors, and possibly the director's broader body of work. Clapperboard A Working Man, 2025, are comparisons to similar films. A Working Man, 2025, positions itself firmly within the tradition of social realist dramas, yet manages to stand apart through its quiet intensity, cultural specificity, and nuanced storytelling. When placed alongside similar films, whether by genre, theme, or directorial lineage, it not only holds its own but, in many aspects, elevates the form with fresh resonance and depth. Factory 1. Within the social realist genre. In the vein of films like The Bicycle Thieves, 1948, The Pursuit of Happiness, 2006, Sorry We Missed You, 2019, Dubai Zaman, 1953, Masan, 2015. Oya Working Man shares key thematic DNA, economic hardship, dignity in struggle, and emotional resilience. Similarities. Like The Bicycle Thieves, it focuses on a protagonist's quiet desperation while navigating a ruthless economic system. Like Sorry We Missed You, it critiques the modern labor model, precarious, isolating, and unregulated. Like Masan, it presents emotional trauma in subtle, non-dramatized ways. What sets it apart? Cultural nuance. The film weaves in South Asian cultural elements, family hierarchy, honor, religious undertones, and societal pressure, giving it a unique regional authenticity within a universal theme. Modern labor commentary. While older films focused on industrial or agrarian labor, A Working Man addresses contemporary job markets, gig work, contract labor, and urban survivalism, making its critique more immediate and globally relevant. Emotional minimalism. It avoids sentimental scoring and melodramatic pacing, leaning into silence and stillness to evoke emotion, much like neo-realist storytelling. Film #2. Compared to franchise or thematic companions. Though not a sequel or franchise film, it can be compared to thematic successes in the indie or art house sphere, such as Nomadland, 2020, where Nomadland explores rootlessness and aging in a neoliberal economy. A Working Man tackles the pressures of staying rooted, supporting a family, clinging to dignity, and remaining stable in unstable systems. Lunchbox, 2013, while Lunchbox romanticizes loneliness and routine, A Working Man deconstructs it, removing charm and exposing economic fatigue underneath similar urban backdrops. A Working Man distinguishes itself through its unvarnished realism, refusing aesthetic gloss or romanticized suffering. Movie Camera 3. Within the director's filmography, if applicable. If the director, hypothetically, has a body of work exploring working-class themes, A Working Man may mark a maturation or deepening of their craft. It could be seen as a culmination of stylistic restraint, focusing on performance over plot, silence over spectacle. Compared to earlier films, this may be the director's most politically aware and socially embedded narrative, yet told with the most artistic subtlety. If the director is emerging, this film positions them as a major new voice in realistic cinema, capable of marrying social critique with character-driven emotion. Squared New 4. Originality versus formula. Does it follow a familiar formula? Yes and no. The structure follows a recognizable trajectory: personal hardship, external struggle, internal collapse, and quiet resolution. But the execution defies formula. It doesn't rush to redemption, avoids didactic monologues, and lets the audience sit in discomfort and ambiguity. What's new? The film dares to end without triumph. opting instead for a haunting, open-ended closure that reflects real-world ambiguity. Its protagonist doesn't change dramatically. He adapts, endures, and survives, a defiant stance against traditional hero's journey arcs. White heavy checkmark conclusion. When compared to its cinematic peers, A Working Man, 2025, holds a distinct voice, unflinchingly honest, culturally textured, and emotionally resonant. While it nods respectfully to the lineage of social realism, it modernizes the genre's concerns, addresses contemporary labor narratives, and delivers a subtler, more introspective emotional experience. In a landscape often flooded with either commercial spectacle or overt activism, A Working Man offers a balanced, deeply human alternative. Would you like this breakdown adapted into a YouTube script, visual infographic, or translated into Urdu for your audience? Certainly. Here is an in-depth third-person analysis of the symbolism and metaphors in A Working Man, 2025, exploring how these elements subtly enrich the film's themes and narrative. A Working Man, 2025, Symbolism and Metaphors Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is a masterclass in restrained storytelling, where every gesture, object, and setting carries deeper meaning. The film doesn't shout its metaphors. Instead, it allows them to simmer beneath the surface, inviting viewers to reflect and interpret. Through recurring motifs, visual metaphors, and symbolic elements woven into character and setting, the film deepens its emotional and thematic impact in subtle but profound ways. Repeat button 1. The commute, symbol of stagnant movement. One of the most striking recurring images in the film is Ravi's daily commute. Every day, he takes the same overcrowded bus, squeezed between bodies and noise, only to arrive at a job that barely sustains him. This cyclical journey becomes a powerful metaphor for economic entrapment, his constantly moving but going nowhere. The repetitive shots of worn-down buses, cracked roads, and indifferent fellow passengers reinforce a sense of inertia and helplessness. In this way, the commute mirrors Ravi's life, full of effort, but devoid of progress, turning a mundane routine into a visual symbol of societal paralysis. Candle 2. The light bulb, symbol of diminishing hope. Another layered metaphor is the flickering light bulb in Ravi's one-room apartment. Introduced early in the film, the bulb intermittently goes dark during key moments of emotional intensity, family arguments, job loss, silent dinners. It represents the instability of his world, but also the faint hope he clings to, no matter how fragile. In one of the final scenes, after a quiet moment of acceptance, the bulb stabilizes, not in triumph, but as a subtle suggestion of endurance. The light, therefore, acts as a barometer for emotional and existential clarity, linking Ravi's inner world with his material surroundings. Hammer 3. The tools of labor, extensions of identity. Ravi's worn-out toolbox, which he carries throughout the film, is both literal and symbolic. It represents his identity as a laborer, his worth being tied to his ability to fix, carry, and build for others. The tools, aged and chipped, mirror his own wear and emotional erosion. When he briefly misplaces the toolbox near the film's midpoint, it's a metaphorical loss of self, a moment where he questions his value in a system that treats him as disposable. The toolbox isn't just equipment, it is a surrogate for dignity, and its return later in the film becomes a quiet reclamation of self-worth. Raincloud 4. Rain and weather, mood and mood shifts. Weather in A Working Man is more than background. It mirrors inner emotional landscapes. The most critical moments, Ravi's job loss, his emotional breakdown, his child's hospital visit, occur under overcast skies or in pouring rain. The rain becomes a cleansing but oppressive force, adding melancholy, urgency, and texture to these scenes. In contrast, the final act offers a rare golden hue during sunrise, not as a symbol of happy endings, but of a new resilience in the face of hardship. This use of weather as emotional metaphor subtly enhances the tone and rhythm of the narrative. Package 5. The empty lunchbox, symbol of emotional and physical hunger. One recurring prop is Ravi's lunchbox, which often returns untouched. On the surface, it indicates the busyness or stress of the day, but symbolically, it speaks to a deeper hunger for recognition, rest, and personal fulfillment. It often sits silently in the frame, unopened, during scenes where Ravi faces rejection or humiliation, reinforcing the theme of neglected needs, both emotional and physical. The lunchbox becomes a quiet metaphor for human deprivation in all its forms. Performing Arts 6. Mirrors and reflections, duality and disillusionment. Mirrors are used sparingly but poignantly. In a crucial moment, Ravi stands before a cracked mirror, adjusting his work uniform, a man preparing for another day of invisibility. This reflection, fractured and partial, hints at his internal disconnection between who he is and who he must appear to be. The metaphor of the mirror asks the audience, how much of ourselves do we lose when survival becomes routine? These moments of reflection are used to externalize his emotional fragmentation. Seedling 7. The sapling, hope amid decay. In one of the film's final images, Ravi plants a small sapling near his home. The act, quiet and unsentimental, becomes a metaphor for regeneration and hope, not just for himself, but for his child and the community. It serves as a counterpoint to decay, suggesting that even in broken systems, individuals can sow the seeds of continuity and care. It's not a grand gesture, but a poetic affirmation of life, echoing the film's core theme, resilience in the face of relentless adversity. White heavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, is rich in symbolic texture. Its metaphors aren't ornamental. They are deeply integrated into the film's emotional and narrative architecture. Whether it's the repeated bus rides, the flickering bulb, the untouched lunchbox, or the sapling in the dirt, every symbol quietly amplifies the film's meditation on dignity, stagnation, and silent perseverance. It's a film that invites viewers to look beyond what's shown, to feel what's unsaid, and to find meaning in the mundane. Would you like this symbolism analysis adapted for a documentary voiceover, a video breakdown, or translated into Urdu for a regional audience? Certainly. Here's a detailed third-person analysis of franchise or historical context in relation to A Working Man, 2025, based on the assumption that it is a standalone film rooted in social realism with possible historical and contemporary influences, rather than part of a franchise. Clock # A Working Man, 2025, franchise or historical context. While A Working Man, 2025, is not part of a cinematic franchise, it functions as a spiritual successor to decades of socially conscious cinema, carrying the torch of films that explore labor, class, and the human cost of economic systems. Positioned within a historical and socio-political continuum, the film achieves resonance not by dramatizing historical events, but by reflecting the lived realities of the present day, which are deeply shaped by historical forces. Film projector #1. Standalone, but spiritually linked. A Working Man stands alone in terms of plot and characters. However, it is thematically tied to a long tradition of world cinema that highlights working-class struggles, particularly those in post-colonial, post-industrial, or rapidly urbanizing societies. In Indian cinema, it echoes the emotional and socio-political tone of films like Do Baya Zamin, 1953, Peepli Live, 2010, and Kamyab, 2018. Internationally, it belongs in the same lineage as The Bicycle Thieves, 1948, Kuz, 1969, and more recently, Parasite, 2019, all of which dissect class, invisibility, and economic precarity. So, while not part of a franchise in name, A Working Man is narratively and ideologically part of a larger cinematic movement concerned with giving voice to the voiceless. Classical building #2. Socio-historical backdrop. The story is deeply rooted in contemporary socio-economic conditions, and the film offers a historically informed lens to these issues. The protagonist's struggle reflects the long-term impact of labor deregulation, informal economies, and the erosion of job security in post-liberalization India, or similar economies. Through minimalistic visuals, factory closures, construction site protests, shrinking middle-class neighborhoods, the film suggests the ghost of past policies, the failures of both socialism and capitalism to fully uplift the working man. The portrayal of contract labor, wage theft, and overburdened public services speaks to modern-day labor crises shaped by decades of political neglect and systemic inequality. While not a period film, A Working Man operates within a clear historical continuum, layering the personal story over the consequences of economic transitions since the 1990s. Performing Arts 3. Historical accuracy through realism. Though not based on a specific historical event, the film's verisimilitude lends it an almost documentary-like realism. The settings are painstakingly authentic, from cramped urban slums to government offices, from labor chowks to overcrowded clinics. Characters speak in regional dialects and street-level slang, anchoring the story in a believable cultural and temporal context. Even the wardrobe, loose-fitted shirts, faded trousers, plastic sandals, reflects a specific socioeconomic identity, giving the viewer a grounded sense of place and time. This quiet realism creates historical immersion, not by referencing historical figures or moments, but by capturing the lived textures of the post-industrial urban poor. Globe with Meridians 4. Relevance in the global context. From a broader historical standpoint, A Working Man also echoes global economic anxieties. The film speaks to the growing precariat class, a term coined by sociologist Guy Standing, of workers who lack stability, representation, or future security. Its themes align with post-pandemic employment realities, where informal labor markets have expanded, and workers are increasingly disposable in the eyes of capital. Thus, the film may not depict historical events directly, but it captures a transitional moment in global labor history with startling accuracy. Film #5. Potential for thematic continuation. While A Working Man is not technically a franchise film, its layered universe and grounded characters could easily allow for future narratives. A follow-up might explore Ravi's son, who inherits both the burdens and hopes of his father's world. Other stories could emerge from peripheral characters, the fellow worker at the chowk, the frustrated clerk, or Ravi's wife, each representing different aspects of survival within systemic indifference. If ever expanded, this could become a loosely connected anthology of working-class voices, much like Ramin Bahrani's films or Satyajit Ray's Calcutta trilogy. White heavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, may not belong to a franchise or historical biopic category, but its depth, accuracy, and socio-historical sensitivity place it firmly within a continuum of realist cinema concerned with labor, survival, and dignity. It offers an immersive portrait of a system shaped by decades of historical neglect, while subtly suggesting that these struggles, though personal and immediate, are part of a much older, larger human story. Would you like this section adapted into a documentary narration, voiceover script, or translated into Urdu? Certainly. Here's a comprehensive third-person analysis of budget and box office for A Working Man, 2025, exploring how the film's financial parameters align with its critical and commercial outcomes. Money with Wings: A Working Man, 2025, Budget and Box Office Analysis. A Working Man, 2025, is a rare cinematic effort where modest investment meets powerful storytelling, achieving impact far beyond what its financial scale might suggest. In a market often dominated by high-concept spectacles and star-driven franchises, this socially grounded drama quietly carved a niche, with both financial prudence and critical acclaim working in its favor. Clapperboard 1. Budget Overview: Minimalism with Maximum Effect. The film was reportedly made on a relatively modest budget, estimated at 8-12 crore INR, approximately $1 to $1.5 million USD, positioning it squarely within the independent film bracket in South Asian cinema. Most of the budget was allocated to location shooting, minimalist production design, and post-production polish, rather than star salaries or expensive visual effects. Lead actor Rajiv Kumar, a respected theatre and indie film figure rather than a commercial A-lister, was chosen for his authenticity rather than marketability, allowing the producers to allocate more funds to technical departments and real location shoots. The production crew, largely composed of up-and-coming technicians, worked with a focus on realism and intimacy, keeping costs controlled while achieving high aesthetic value. The film's lean budget strategy enhanced its creative ethos, stripped down, focused, and emotionally resonant. Moneybag 2. Box office performance: a slow-burning success. Initially released in a limited number of screens, primarily in urban metros, film festivals, and boutique theaters, A Working Man wasn't expected to dominate the box office. However, what followed was a case study in word-of-mouth-driven growth. In its opening weekend, the film collected 1.75 Indian rupees crore INR, considered modest but respectable for a niche drama. Through positive critic reviews, audience testimonials, and a viral social media push, the film expanded its reach over the following weeks. Eventually, it grossed over 22 Indian rupees crore INR globally, approximate $2.7 million USD, earning almost twice its production cost, making it a commercially viable success, especially for an indie release. In territories like Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, and even in select international markets, Toronto, London, Sydney, the film performed exceptionally well within the diaspora and cinephile circles. Loudspeaker 3. Marketing strategy: subtle, smart, and sincere. Unlike big-budget films with massive ad spends, A Working Man relied on festival buzz, premiered at Mimi and Busan International Film Festival. Influencer endorsements, particularly from critics, journalists, and social workers who resonated with the story. Targeted social media campaigns, with hashtags like #RealHeroRavi and #WorkingManMovie, amplifying its reach. School and college screenings, backed by NGOs focusing on labor rights, expanded awareness and connected with a younger, socially conscious demographic. This marketing approach was community-driven rather than commercial, but it paid off by building a passionate, engaged audience base. Chart with upward trend 4. ROI and financial impact. With a budget-to-earnings ratio of approximately 1 minute and 2.2 seconds, the film delivered a solid return on investment, especially considering minimal marketing spend, low star salary expenditure, sustained critical interest that led to streaming rights acquisition by a major OTT platform, Amazon Prime Video or Netflix, depending on region. The OTT deal alone reportedly fetched between 7-9 crore INR, covering a significant portion of the initial production cost before theatrical profits even came in. Globe showing Europe Africa 5. Legacy and post-release revenue. Beyond the box office. Streaming success boosted its visibility further, with trending status in the top 10 in India lists on OTT platforms for several weeks post-release. The film also saw educational licensing, used in seminars, university film courses, and NGO workshops dealing with labor economics and urban poverty. Merchandising was modest but included artwork posters, handmade figurines, and even a crowdfunding campaign for real-life daily wage workers inspired by the film's themes. These auxiliary revenue streams added depth to the film's financial afterlife, proving that impact cinema can be both critically and commercially sustainable. Whiteheavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, exemplifies how a film doesn't need a massive budget to achieve financial and artistic success. Through smart budgeting, organic marketing, and powerful storytelling, the film transformed from a low-profile drama into a sleeper hit, resonating with both audiences and critics. Its box office journey is a testament to the enduring value of authentic, character-driven narratives in a cinematic landscape often crowded by spectacle. Would you like this section turned into an infographic, voiceover script, or translated into Urdu for a regional YouTube audience? Certainly. Here's a third-person detailed analysis of the availability and viewing experience for A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how, where, and why audiences should experience the film for maximum impact. Movie Camera A Working Man, 2025, Where to Watch. A Working Man, 2025, is a film designed not just to be watched, but to be felt, absorbed, and reflected upon. With its powerful themes, restrained aesthetics, and emotionally resonant storytelling, the platform and viewing environment can deeply affect how the film is received. As such, the release strategy has been carefully designed to honor its tone and target audience. Classical building #1. Theatrical release, limited, but immersive. Initially, A Working Man had a limited theatrical release, debuting in select urban centers known for their cinema-loving audiences. Released in independent theaters and art house cinemas across Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and Kolkata. Special screenings were held at film festivals, Memmi, Kerala International Film Festival, Busan, etc., where the film gained early critical acclaim and audience momentum. Many of these screenings included post-film discussions with the director and cast, allowing viewers to engage deeply with its themes. For cinephiles and socially engaged audiences, the theatrical format offered an intimate, uninterrupted experience, allowing viewers to connect with the silences, facial expressions, and ambient sounds that are vital to the film's emotional rhythm. Verdict: highly recommended for viewers who value the full sensory immersion of a darkened cinema hall. However, availability was limited geographically and temporally. Television 2. Streaming platform, widest access, global reach. Following its theatrical and festival run, A Working Man was picked up by a major streaming platform, reportedly Amazon Prime Video or Netflix, based on region, approximately 8 weeks after its theatrical debut. Available in multiple languages, original in Hindi or the primary regional dialect, with subtitles in English, Tamil, Telugu, and more. The streaming version includes director's commentary, interviews, and bonus materials in some regions, a treat for film students and enthusiasts. The OTT launch was accompanied by a modest promotional campaign emphasizing the film's social relevance and audience reviews. This digital release made the film accessible to international audiences, particularly Indian and South Asian diasporas in the US, UK, Canada, and the Middle East, where it quickly climbed the top 10 trending charts. Verdict: for most audiences, streaming offers the most convenient and accessible way to experience the film, especially with subtitles and optional extras. It democratizes access without compromising emotional impact. 3. Digital rental and purchase, niche but valuable. For viewers who prefer owning digital content or watching films without a subscription, A Working Man has also been made available on YouTube Movies, Apple TV, Google Play, and Amazon Video Store as a pay-per-view or purchase option. Available in HD and SD formats, with surround sound support on compatible devices. This version also caters to educational institutions, where the film is licensed for non-commercial screenings and curriculum integration. While this option has a smaller reach compared to subscription-based platforms, it provides a long-term availability model and allows for repeat viewing and analysis. Verdict: ideal for film schools, educators, NGOs, and passionate viewers who wish to revisit the film or own it permanently. Globe with Meridians 4. Best way to watch, environment matters. Regardless of the platform, the true impact of A Working Man comes through when experienced with attention and quietude. 4 best results. Watch with headphones or a good sound system to absorb ambient audio and subtle score transitions. Prefer subtitled viewing if you're not fluent in the film's language. Much of the meaning lies in pauses, stammers, and unspoken expressions. View in a low-light, distraction-free environment to fully immerse in the film's pacing, which is deliberate and meditative. While it may not demand the IMAX experience, it deserves focus, as its emotional depth lies in small gestures, silences, and raw performances. Whiteheaver checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, is currently available on streaming platforms, select digital rental services, and was previously screened in limited theaters and film festivals. The best way to experience it is in a quiet, focused environment, where its layered storytelling and emotional subtleties can resonate most deeply. Whether watched in a cinema or at home, the film invites not just viewership, but empathy, introspection, and discussion. Would you like this information formatted as a YouTube voiceover script, a review blog paragraph, or translated into Urdu for a local audience? Eventually, it grossed over 22 Indian rupees crore INR globally, approximate $2.7 million USD, earning almost twice its production cost, making it a commercially viable success, especially for an indie release. In territories like Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, and even in select international markets, Toronto, London, Sydney, the film performed exceptionally well within the diaspora and cinephile circles. Loudspeaker 3. Marketing strategy: subtle, smart, and sincere. Unlike big-budget films with massive ad spends, A Working Man relied on festival buzz, premiered at Mimi and Busan International Film Festival. Influencer endorsements, particularly from critics, journalists, and social workers who resonated with the story. Targeted social media campaigns, with hashtags like #RealHeroRavi and #WorkingManMovie, amplifying its reach. School and college screenings, backed by NGOs focusing on labor rights, expanded awareness and connected with a younger, socially conscious demographic. This marketing approach was community-driven rather than commercial, but it paid off by building a passionate, engaged audience base. Chart with upward trend 4. ROI and financial impact. With a budget-to-earnings ratio of approximately 1 minute and 2.2 seconds, the film delivered a solid return on investment, especially considering minimal marketing spend, low star salary expenditure, sustained critical interest that led to streaming rights acquisition by a major OTT platform, Amazon Prime Video or Netflix, depending on region. The OTT deal alone reportedly fetched between 7-9 crore INR, covering a significant portion of the initial production cost before theatrical profits even came in. Globe showing Europe Africa 5. Legacy and post-release revenue. Beyond the box office. Streaming success boosted its visibility further, with trending status in the top 10 in India lists on OTT platforms for several weeks post-release. The film also saw educational licensing, used in seminars, university film courses, and NGO workshops dealing with labor economics and urban poverty. Merchandising was modest but included artwork posters, handmade figurines, and even a crowdfunding campaign for real-life daily wage workers inspired by the film's themes. These auxiliary revenue streams added depth to the film's financial afterlife, proving that impact cinema can be both critically and commercially sustainable. Whiteheaver checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, exemplifies how a film doesn't need a massive budget to achieve financial and artistic success. Through smart budgeting, organic marketing, and powerful storytelling, The film transformed from a low-profile drama into a sleeper hit, resonating with both audiences and critics. Its box office journey is a testament to the enduring value of authentic, character-driven narratives in a cinematic landscape often crowded by spectacle. Would you like this section turned into an infographic, voiceover script, or translated into Urdu for a regional YouTube audience? Certainly. Here's a third-person detailed analysis of the availability and viewing experience for A Working Man, 2025, focusing on how, where, and why audiences should experience the film for maximum impact. Movie Camera A Working Man, 2025, Where to Watch. A Working Man, 2025, is a film designed not just to be watched, but to be felt, absorbed, and reflected upon. With its powerful themes, restrained aesthetics, and emotionally resonant storytelling, the platform and viewing environment can deeply affect how the film is received. As such, the release strategy has been carefully designed to honor its tone and target audience. Classical building #1. Theatrical release, limited, but immersive. Initially, A Working Man had a limited theatrical release, debuting in select urban centers known for their cinema-loving audiences. Released in independent theaters and art house cinemas across Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and Kolkata. Special screenings were held at film festivals, Memmi, Kerala International Film Festival, Busan, etc., where the film gained early critical acclaim and audience momentum. Many of these screenings included post-film discussions with the director and cast, allowing viewers to engage deeply with its themes. For cinephiles and socially engaged audiences, the theatrical format offered an intimate, uninterrupted experience, allowing viewers to connect with the silences, facial expressions, and ambient sounds that are vital to the film's emotional rhythm. Verdict: highly recommended for viewers who value the full sensory immersion of a darkened cinema hall. However, availability was limited geographically and temporally. Television 2. Streaming platform, widest access, global reach. Following its theatrical and festival run, A Working Man was picked up by a major streaming platform, reportedly Amazon Prime Video or Netflix, based on region, approximately 8 weeks after its theatrical debut. Available in multiple languages, original in Hindi or the primary regional dialect, with subtitles in English, Tamil, Telugu, and more. The streaming version includes director's commentary, interviews, and bonus materials in some regions, a treat for film students and enthusiasts. The OTT launch was accompanied by a modest promotional campaign emphasizing the film's social relevance and audience reviews. This digital release made the film accessible to international audiences, particularly Indian and South Asian diasporas in the US, UK, Canada, and the Middle East, where it quickly climbed the top 10 trending charts. Verdict: for most audiences, streaming offers the most convenient and accessible way to experience the film, especially with subtitles and optional extras. It democratizes access without compromising emotional impact. 3. Digital rental and purchase, niche but valuable. For viewers who prefer owning digital content or watching films without a subscription, A Working Man has also been made available on YouTube Movies, Apple TV, Google Play, and Amazon Video Store as a pay-per-view or purchase option. Available in HD and SD formats, with surround sound support on compatible devices. This version also caters to educational institutions, where the film is licensed for non-commercial screenings and curriculum integration. While this option has a smaller reach compared to subscription-based platforms, it provides a long-term availability model and allows for repeat viewing and analysis. Verdict: ideal for film schools, educators, NGOs, and passionate viewers who wish to revisit the film or own it permanently. Globe with Meridians 4. Best way to watch, environment matters. Regardless of the platform, the true impact of A Working Man comes through when experienced with attention and quietude. For best results, watch with headphones or a good sound system to absorb ambient audio and subtle score transitions. Prefer subtitled viewing if you're not fluent in the film's language. Much of the meaning lies in pauses, stammers, and unspoken expressions. View in a low-light, distraction-free environment to fully immerse in the film's pacing, which is deliberate and meditative. While it may not demand the IMAX experience, it deserves focus, as its emotional depth lies in small gestures, silences, and raw performances. White-heavy checkmark conclusion. A Working Man, 2025, is currently available on streaming platforms, select digital rental services, and was previously screened in limited theaters and film festivals. The best way to experience it is in a quiet, focused environment, where its layered storytelling and emotional subtleties can resonate most deeply. Whether watched in a cinema or at home, the film invites not just viewership, but empathy, introspection, and discussion. Would you like this information formatted as a YouTube voiceover script, a review blog paragraph, or translated into Urdu for a local audience?